All right, so Tony, I really appreciate you allowing me to take a little time here. And as Tony mentioned before, Tony is staying out at my place, and I just want to give you a little background about Tony and I. About 3 years ago, maybe 3.5, a fellow called me up that I belonged to a group called the Humanities Team, and that was started by Neil Donald Walsh to get together people of like minds and spread this word of raising the consciousness of humanity. And a friend of ours from Los Angeles calls me up and says, I got this fella coming up your way. His name's Tony Burrows, and I think you should get a group together and listen to him. So we had a meeting that we got together. We called in all the people we could. And my friend Paula May, who's here with us tonight, we invited Tony to come with us and speak. And he came over and gave us this presentation in its earlier form, and I was blown away. I loved him from the moment he opened his mouth. I was just sitting there going, okay, you know, I thought, man, I'm on the path. I know this stuff. And Tony, you know, what the creative process is a matter of looking at things from different perspectives. And Tony gave us just a perspective that was very concrete, that you could use. And I thought, you know, this is so powerful. I'm going to make an intention right now that I'm going to use this process. And so that was my introduction to Tony, and I was just so glad that we got together then. And then, well, okay, let me start, because we were talking at my place about the best way to understand things is tell stories. And so Tony says, you got a story? I said, do I have a story? And so I'm going to tell this powerful story, and we'll get Tony back into the story. And what happened is, I grew up on a little farm in Bonita, and I always wanted to move back to the country for my dream house. And so I made an intention, after I met Tony, that I would find some property that was a view property and had a few acres, so we have some privacy, and I could build the dream house there. That would be my retirement house. And so my wife and I would go look at property on Saturday mornings because we like to listen to car talk. And that was kind of a little routine we did. And one morning we drove out, and I hit some golf balls at the Highway 58 thing, and then we went for a little drive. And I turned right on Cloverdale Road, a little bit up the road, drove down a mile or so, and there's this for sale sign in the road. And I said, wow, I've never seen that. And so we pulled in the driveway. The gate was locked, and there's a sign there that says for sale, had a description of the properties, 25 acres, riverfront. And I thought, wow, that's interesting, because I was thinking, you know, there's going to be a view property, probably be on a hill somewhere, because I never even thought about riverfront. But the universe knew that I love the water, because I jog along these bike trails all the time, and I just like get the energy from it. So the universe knew more than I did. And so I went down, took a look at the property, and I was very impressed, because it was just absolutely gorgeous property, completely private, more than I could ever. And this is another thing the universe does. It always brings your intentions to you in a much grander form than you can ever think of. That's been my experience throughout. Once I started being a conscious manifester, I just found out that this happens all the time. It always is much better than I can imagine myself. So, as you might imagine, the price was, you know, it was a fair piece of money to buy this property. But I knew the second time I went down to look at this property, I turned the corner at the barn, and this eagle flew up from the river. And I said, well, if that isn't a sign, I don't know what is. So I used to be in real estate, so I called my friend who was still in real estate. I said, we're going to make an offer on this property. And I made the intention that I was going to own that property. And at the time I made that intention, I didn't have the wherewithal to do it. But I knew I was going to do it, because I told myself that I'm a master creator. I can create this kind of stuff. I know I can, because I've been manifesting for quite a while. I knew the immutable laws that govern the laws of creation, and I've used them consciously. So I was a conscious manifester for a few years, and I knew I could do it. And so I held the intention. I made an intention that I was going to own that property. And when I made that intention, I created a visualization that I could really latch on to, something that I could go to every time I thought of the property. And this is what Li Ching taught us just a few minutes ago. Create that visualization. And so I drew out house plans for the dream house. I had no idea what the house was going to look like, but I just set an intention. What would it look like if I could have the house that would fit that property? So I drew up the plans, and then I just kept looking at the plans. I'd go out and look at the property. And so time went by. And I couldn't close the deal. But I kept the intention up, and I kept the visualization up. And about a year went by, and I still wasn't any closer to closing the deal. And I was going, okay, I felt strong as ever that I was going to own the property. And then Tony came through town again, and he did another tour right here in this room. We had over 50 people. It was a powerful presentation, same thing. And I was once again inspired. And Tony and I got to spend some time together again. And he took a little trip up north, came back down, and we did a radio interview. And so I took him out to the property, and he says, oh, this is beautiful. I'm so glad you're buying this. Next time I'm in town, you're going to own this property. And, of course, he was right. And then, about a month later, he calls me and says, Richard, I hope you got next weekend free because we're doing a movie down in Ashland. I want you there. So I said, you know, looked at my calendar, but I already knew. I had it. And it was free. So I had this weekend, and I went down to Ashland, made the movie with Tony. Tina was there, Vicki. We had just a wonderful time, a group of inspirational people in this movie, and the movie's available actually here. But every time I look at it, I go, wow, I am so blessed to have been part of that movie. Well, part of that movie included, I met a girl. And this is, you know, I had no intention of meeting anybody for anything. My wife had died recently, actually about a year before, but I wasn't looking for anything. And I agreed to just go down and visit this lady, and it turned into a kind of this really fast synergistic love thing. And it was powerful. It was powerful. And then as that happened, and the reason I'm saying this is because when you put emotion into your intentions, everything accelerates. And amazingly, during that period, within about 3 months, I had the property. We closed an escrow. Everything fell into place. And it was just mind-blowing how it all happened. I met Tony down in Mount Shasta, where we had dinner one night, and we sat in this beautiful setting, outdoor restaurant, and talked about things. And Tony said, he already owns the property. He's getting it. You know, I mean, it was like a done deal, and I was going, God, I love this guy. I knew it. And that was about 2 months before we closed.